Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome. I'm Dr. TJ, a Harvard trained surgeon and a motivational speaker. In this channel, it is all about you. Our mind is like Bucephalus. You may be defeated for the most part almost every day within the battlefield of your mind. Your opponent is none other than your own mind. Your mind usually victorious, and you may go to sleep often defeated at night. The next day rolls around, morning sun, fresh air, birds singing, and the moment you rise, the battle is on, only to be defeated again by your mind. When will you have the courage to face your demons and win the fight against your mind, and in the process change your life the better? It is time to trade your mind. Yes, it is time. Let me take you way back in time to the summer of 344 BCE in Pella, Macedon, now called Macedonia in northern Greece, where King Philip II was born. As usual, the morning sun stretched shadows across the stables as King Philip II of Macedon walked through the courtyard. Behind him trailed a nervous horse merchant, wringing his hands as he gestured towards a magnificent stallion that pawed and snorted in the center of the enclosure. He was an untamed male horse, his name Bucephalus. Bucephalus in Greek means ox head. The horse's head was wide and looked like an ox, hence the name. 13 talents of silver, Philip muttered, shaking his head. For a horse that won't let anyone near him. The stallion was indeed a sight to behold, coal black with a white star blazing across his forehead like a bolt of lightning. His muscles rippled beneath the glossy coat and his eyes rolled, wild with an intelligence that seemed almost human. Yet, every groom who had attempted to approach him had been driven back by flashing hooves and bared teeth. Your Majesty, the merchant pleaded, he comes from the finest bloodline in Thessaly, if only. From across the courtyard, a 12-year-old boy watched with keen, bright eyes. His golden hair glistened in the sunlight as he studied the agitated horse with fascination rather than fear. While the grown men saw only a dangerous, unmanageable beast, the young boy perceived something entirely different. Father, the boy said, approaching respectfully, may I try to tame this horse? King Philip looked at his son with a mix of amusement and concern. The boy's name was Alexander, later to be known as Alexander the Great. Alexander, King Philip said, this beast has already injured 2 men today. What makes you think you can succeed where experienced horsemen have failed? I believe I understand what troubles him, Alexander replied with quiet confidence. But if I fail, I will pay the 13 talents myself. King Philip studied his son's determined face and then smiled. Very well, my boy. But remember, failure means you bear the cost of this expensive horse. Alexander had noticed something the others had missed. Bucephalus was afraid of his own shadows. He's afraid of his own shadow, Alexander said quietly, moving to place himself between the horse and the sun. With slow, deliberate movements, Alexander took hold of the horse's bridle and began turning him to face directly into the sunlight. The stallion's shadow fell behind him now, invisible to his rolling eyes. Almost immediately, the great horse began to calm. Easy, beautiful one, Alexander murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. He ran his hands along the horse's neck, feeling the powerful muscles gradually relax beneath his touch. I see your courage. You're simply misunderstood. Philip watched in stunned silence as the son, moving with surprising grace, swung himself onto the stallion's back. For a heartbeat, time seemed suspended. Then, with a joyous whinny, the black horse surged forward into a gallop, carrying Alexander into a perfect circle around the courtyard. When they finally came to a halt, Alexander's face was flushed with triumph and something deeper, a connection that would endure for decades to come. Philip approached slowly. His expression transformed from irritation to wonder. "By the gods, Alexander, how did you know?" "I watched him, father." "Really watched?" "He wasn't angry. He was afraid." Once I understood what frightened him, the solution was simple. The king turned to the merchant and nodded curtly. 13 talents. The horse is ours." Then, placing a hand on his son's shoulder, he added with a smile that held both pride and prophecy, "My boy, you must find a kingdom equal to yourself, for Macedonia is too small for you." Alexander dismounted and pressed his forehead against the stallion's neck. "Bucephalus," he whispered, speaking the horse's name with new affection. "We shall see the world together, you and I." In that moment, under the warm Macedonian sun, began one of the history's greatest partnership between a young prince who would conquer the known world and the magnificent horse who could carry him there. Now let us look at the lessons from the story. From the story, we know that Bucephalus held immense power, poise, and potential. This can be compared to our mind, which is very powerful, but in its untamed state. Bucephalus proved to be more destructive than beneficial. Similarly, our own minds, in its untrained state, can potentially cause more harm than good in our lives. The untrained mind can exhibit chaos, especially when we are not able to gain control over our thoughts and emotions. In the story, while others saw only a wild, dangerous animal when they looked at Bucephalus, Alexander, on the other hand, looked deeper. He recognized the true cause of the horse's agitation, namely, fear of his own shadow. This observation by Alexander was a game changer. Similarly, when our minds are filled with anxiety, anger, or distraction, we must first take a step back and identify the real source of our mental turmoil. Often, like Bucephalus, we are not truly afraid of the present moment, but of the shadows, those fears, memories, and projections that we cast upon reality. Here lies the first lesson in taming your mind: observation without judgment. Learn to examine any situation without jumping to conclusions. The second profound lesson is face your fears directly. Alexander didn't try to eliminate the shadow. He simply repositioned the horse so it could no longer see what frightened it. In training our minds, we cannot always eliminate our fears, doubts, or negative thoughts, but we can change our relationship to them. When we turn toward the light of awareness and practice mindfulness, namely living in the present moment, our mental shadows, those anxious projections about the future or regrets about the past, fall behind us, where they cannot control our action. The third lesson emerges in Alexander's approach: gentle persistence and understanding. Remember what Bruce Lee said: be like water, meaning soft, persistent, and adaptable. He didn't try to break the horse's spirit through force or punishment. Instead, he recognized the nobility within the apparent wildness. Our minds, too, are not our enemies to be conquered through harsh discipline. The same mental energy that creates chaos through worry and distraction contains the seeds of creativity, insight, and focused determination. The goal is not to destroy these mental forces, but to redirect them constructively. This moment represents the transformation that occurs when mind and intentions align. Just as Bucephalus became not merely tamed, but enthusiastic in partnership with Alexander, our minds become our greatest allies when properly trained. The same mental energy that once scattered in 1,000 directions now moves with purpose and power towards our chosen goals. Just as Alexander would go on to create one of history's greatest empires with Bucephalus as his trusted companion, we too can achieve extraordinary things when we learn to master our minds. The wild horse represents our untrained consciousness, powerful but chaotic, full of potential but prone to fear and reactivity. The process of mental training mirrors Alexander's approach. First, observe without judgment. Notice the patterns of your thoughts and emotions without immediately trying to change them. What are the shadows that frighten your mind? What triggers send your thoughts into wild galloping? Second, face the light. Turn your attention towards the present moment, toward your goals, toward what you can control. Let the shadows of worry and regret fall behind you where they belong. Third, practice gentle persistence. Don't try to crush or eliminate your thoughts and emotions. Instead, like Alexander, recognize the power within them and learn to redirect that energy constructively. Finally, form a partnership. Your mind, once trained, becomes not a burden to be endured but a powerful ally in achieving your dreams. Like Bucephalus carrying Alexander across the known world, a disciplined mind carries us towards our highest aspiration. The young prince who tamed Bucephalus teaches us that mastery, whether of horses or minds, comes not through force, but through understanding, patience, and the wisdom to see potential where others see only problems. In taming our minds, we too can find kingdoms equal to our greatest dreams. When you master your mind like Alexander with the horse, there is no battlefield in life you cannot conquer. Now let us explore our mind further. Napoleon Hill once said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But the opposite is also true. If your mind is untrained, it can destroy the very life you're trying to build. Therefore, take the time to train your mind. Here are some techniques. Let's look at 3 techniques to train your mind. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." End quote. Mindfulness. Right now, as I speak these words, your mind is probably somewhere else. Maybe replaying this morning's conversation. Maybe planning tonight's dinner. Maybe worrying about tomorrow's deadline. This is the human condition. We live everywhere, except where we actually are. Mindfulness is the radical act of coming home to this moment. It's not about emptying your mind or finding some mystical Zen state. It is about waking up to your own life. When you train your mind to stay present, something extraordinary happens. You stop being a prisoner of your thoughts and become their observer. You discover that between every trigger and your reaction lies a space, a pause where choice lives. In that pause, you reclaim your power. You stop living on autopilot and start living on purpose. The present moment isn't just where peace lives. It's where your real life is happening. Number 2, visualization. Close your eyes. Imagine biting into a lemon. Can you taste the sharp sourness? Feel your mouth pucker. That's the power of visualization. Your brain just responded to something that doesn't exist. Your mind cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and reality. That's visualization. And it's your secret weapon for manifestation. Olympic athletes know the secret. They mentally rehearse their routines thousands of times before the competition, training their neural pathways as if they were actually performing. Surgeons visualize complex procedures before entering the operating room. Business leaders see their success before they achieve it. Here's what most people don't understand. Visualization makes the invisible visible. When you visualize your goals with crystal clarity, seeing yourself in that corner office, feeling the weight of that trophy, hearing the applause, you're not daydreaming. You are programming your subconscious to make it happen. It transforms wishful thinking into mental blueprints. Suddenly, pathways appear, opportunities emerge, resources materialize. Your future self becomes so real that your present self starts moving towards it automatically. This isn't magic. It's manifestation through mental rehearsal. See it first and you live it next. Number 3, reframing. A failure or a lesson. A setback or a setup. A problem or an opportunity in disguise. The difference isn't what happens to you, it's how you frame what happens to you. Reframing is the mental superpower that transforms victims into victors. When life throws you curveballs, you have two choices. See yourself as someone things happen to or someone things happen for. Every obstacle becomes training. Every rejection becomes redirection. Every ending becomes a new beginning. The most successful people on earth don't have fewer problems. They have better frames. They've trained their minds to ask different questions. Instead of why me, they ask how can this serve me? Instead of this is terrible, they think this is temporary. Your circumstances don't define your destiny. Your frame does. Change your frame, change your life. Because sometimes the best things that ever happened to you will first appear as the worst thing that ever happened to you. Lastly, a word about brain food, namely BDNF. Your brain has its own personal trainer. Its name is BDNF, namely brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as miracle grow for your neurons. It's a protein that builds new brain cells, strengthens existing connections, and literally rewires your mind for success. When you train your thoughts, BDNF is what makes those changes stick. It's your brain's renovation crew, constantly upgrading your mental hardware to support the better version of yourself. Here's the game changer. You can control your BDNF levels. Aerobic exercise floods your brain with it. Just 20 minutes of cardio can boost BDNF for hours. Quality sleep manufactures it while you rest. Intermittent fasting triggers its production. Learning new skills demands it. Even cold showers and meditation increase it. The foods you eat matter too. Blueberries, dark chocolate, and fatty fish feed your BDNF factories. When you deliberately increase BDNF, you're not just thinking differently, you're building a different brain. Every workout, every meditation, every moment of learning is literally sculpting the neural pathways of your future self. Your brain's potential isn't fixed, it's trainable. And BDNF is your personal trainer. Your mind is like Bucephalus. Take the time to train your mind. I challenge you to take the first step today. Just do it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.